All right, so took a little break and came back to the pedal here. There's some things I want to talk about. You know, you buy these kits and you think, oh, this should be a piece of cake. Just, all I have to know how to do is solder. But I'm going to tell you what, these potentiometers here, trying to get these things soldered to the board. There are holes in the board where they get soldered to. But what you have to do, it's really awkward, is to try to get all of these, the switch and the 4 potentiometers lined up in the enclosure holes. And then you have to set the board on top and line up all of those pins at one time. What a nightmare. It never works. So one trick that I like to do is, I actually had another one of these built. So what I did was I took this one and I figured out that the switch is right about a nickel's thickness height off the board. So what did I do? I took the new board that I was soldering and I put a nickel under it, kind of held it in place, and I went ahead and soldered it so that I knew I had a kind of a reference point. So that worked out real good, actually. And then one thing, if you notice here, I've got some paper under this potentiometer because on the back side are the germanium transistors, or diodes, I'm sorry. And the problem is when you solder them, you're going to have little beads of solder on the back side of the board. This potentiometer will want to short out on those things. So I had to put some paper in there just to kind of get a little insulator so that that doesn't short out. Kind of a weakness in the design of the board, in my opinion, from the manufacturer. So nevertheless, I got all the potentiometers. What I did was I put them in one at a time and soldered, let it cool, pulled it out, put the next potentiometer in, set the board back in, and I just did them one at a time until I got them all done. To try to get them all at one time is really, really frustrating. It'll make you just want to throw stuff across the room, and I was almost at that point. It's funny, the first board I built wasn't as bad. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm sick and I don't feel well. I'm not as patient today, I guess. But anyway, I finally got them done. And then another thing, I've got these LEDs. These are indicators for each channel, or not channel, but each function. So what I did with those was I put the board in. I went ahead and like put these in the holes, dropped this thing in, and just line up everything, pushed it all the way through. And then what I did was, these are the 2 leads from each one. I pushed them down through until they kind of got flush with the pedal here, where you can see them. And then I just flipped it over and went ahead and soldered them into place, so now they're lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back out. And one thing we got to do, we want to make sure that we clip off the excess leads here. Let's see if you can see them. Got them. Okay, so now my indicator LEDs are soldered into place, and I think what I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the op amps here. These little 8-pin EEPROM. They're not EEPROMs. They're op amps, and there is a dot, and I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see that. I can hold it here. You can see the dot or not. There's a dot on this top corner here. Well, that dot let's talk about the sockets. This socket here, you notice has a notch on the bottom here. Well, that notch needs to also have the corner with the dot going that end. Now it's important that before I start putting these op amps in, that I know which one is which. So I'm just going to take my old one here and my first one. But if you're going to do this kind of work, get one of these, and it's critical. So that one is a TL072. So let's make sure. This one is not a TL072. This is what they call the charge pump. It's a voltage doubler. It takes the 9 volts from the battery and actually doubles it and makes 18 volts out of it. And I believe that one goes here. Okay, so I gotta make sure the dot lines up with a notch on the end of the board. And one thing I'm gonna say is these op amps, the pins, are they're a little bit too wide of a stance. So I need to bring them in. So notice how I've got fine point needle nose pliers. I'm gonna bring them in a little bit just to make sure it's gonna go down in the socket. First thing you want to do is just set it in. You don't want to press it in yet. You just want to make sure that everything lines up properly. As if you, there we go. And there it is. It's all pressed in. So I'm going to double check. Yep, my notch is on this side, on the outside of the board. And the dot is to the outside as well. So the charge pump is now installed correctly. I know the other ones are TL072. Let's see. These things are hard to see even with. Yep, okay. So you actually want to verify that these are all correct, because you know the packer who packs all this stuff to ship it out, anybody can make a mistake. So you want to verify all the components are correct before putting them into the board. It'll just save you some headache. So once again, the dot is going to go to the notch on the socket. Being very careful. I don't feel good about that. I think this has got to come in just a hair. All right, so when I say you have to have patience to do this, and it's an understatement. So what I just like to do is just barely get the pins going down into the socket and just barely press a little bit on each side. Make sure that the dot is down here on the same end as the notch, which this one is. That's good. Let's get the next one. I don't know if you can tell, but these are kind of, hold on, it's like holding a damn spider in my hand. Notice how they're kind of spread out there. Got to be brought back in. There we go. And let's find the notch on this one. And it looks like it is on that side. Just barely start it, make sure that the pins don't kind of bend out and actually miss the socket holes. Okay, dot's in the right place, and we have one more. We're making progress, guys. Tell you what, for those of you who complain about the cost of special effects pedals for your guitars, I will say this: after building a couple, I have no problem with the prices people charge. You know, $200 and up for a pedal. I mean, if your materials are $100, that's a lot of labor, a lot of work to put into these to make them right, and to have a great pedal that could last you a lifetime, you know? So, $200 to $300 for a pedal, in my opinion, I have no problem with it. Okay, I got the last socket here. So the notch is on this side over here, and the dot is on the same side. Okay, I got it seated. Everything lined up, just barely start it, rock it back and forth, and it's all the way in, and there we have it. And I think about the only thing left to do soldering wise is I've got a few wires left to do. Probably not going to do them tonight because I'm not feeling well, but I probably will get on it tomorrow. Should have the pedal up and running, and we'll give it a test drive, and we'll get the guitar out and just see how it sounds. I suspect it's going to work great, going to sound great. Looking forward to doing that, and there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good night.